everyone, this is Kieran over Sapien for Filmstorm Studios, and today we're back inside Unity and we're going to have a look at some of the new features inside of the new beta. And as you can see, I'm running Unity 2018.2.21 or 2F1, and I'm going to show you off some of the cool new things that you might not know about and how to actually set them up properly to get working. So this pretty much looks exactly the same as what we had previously. Like, everything is basically in the exact same spots. You might not know about this thing called the package manager, which is under window package manager. So if you load that up, you can see this is the same kind of window that you can dock pretty much anywhere. So you can dock it here, which we'll do just for now. And as you can see, these are the 5 packages that kind of come like already loaded from the start. You have ads, analytics, in-app purchasing, package manager, and text mesh pro. And also, if you fold this out, this has all of the other bits and pieces that you'll probably find in components and all your different areas. So I mean, if you didn't need something specific that you didn't want your game to ship with, you can always disable it and it won't be included in that package, which is also handy. But all of the cool stuff is under all, and this is where we'll start adding some of the things. So today we're going to have a look at Cinemachine and how to make a quick cinematic, setting up that, and also have a look at how to set up these new render pipelines. We'll focus on lightweight because it's a bit easier to get set up, but it works exactly the same way as the high definition one. But for more people, it's probably better to run the lightweight one, as it runs lightweight. So if we click install up here, you can see that it's already starting to get the packages. It's going to import all the different little things that we might need for this to run. And so we'll just let that run for a little bit. This is probably the one that will take the longest to import. So as you can see, it's just pulling in all those scripts, and we'll come back to it when it's ready. Okay, so that's finished importing, and it pops you back to the in project, and now you can see in your project you have the lightweight render pipeline. So that's really cool. So now, after we've done that, let's pop back over to all, and we want to go and grab the Cinemachine. Let's install this, and now you can see that this Cinemachine tab has popped up here with all these cool little options that we'll go through. And pretty much I think that was it for now. If we need something else like post-processing, we'll come back and add that. If you want to add it now, you can, but I don't think we'll cover it in this project because it's pretty massive, so we'll cover that in another tutorial. Alright, so jumping back to your scene, first thing we need to do is actually set up our timeline. So let's right mouse click and let's just create an empty game object. Let's just right mouse click and reset it. I clicked in there, so that will set it back to the center. It doesn't need to be, it's just nicer and easier to find. Let's call it timeline, and we can even put a little icon there, so if you need to quickly access it, you can pop back here. And perfect. So what we want to do is go window, under animation, sequencing, timeline. And then this pops up. I like to actually drag this one down and pop it in here because it just makes it a bit easier to preview and when you have all the objects going on. If you need it somewhere else, if you want it up here for some reason, you can put it there, but I like to put it down here. So to start off, let's just click on our timeline. Let's click create. It's going to want us to make a new timeline, and let's just call it timeline. And it's going to put .playable after it, which is important. We'll come back to this in another part. And then you can see that we have our timeline. So this timeline is called that timeline, and this is getting driven by this this new asset that's created here. As you can see, that timeline.playable. And this is where we're going to put all of our fantastic and fun little things. But to start off with, we actually need to grab some objects to put in here so we can start to animate and make it look cool. So let's come into 3D object and let's make a nice plane. Let's just reset this guy and pull this out. And now you can start to notice that we've got all our default materials. And what we want to start to do is actually use our lightweight system that we imported in here. So we want to start to use our this guy, the lightweight render pipeline. So how do we actually get this set up and start working in here? So to start off with, we need to right mouse click, create, rendering, lightweight pipeline asset. Let's just leave it like that, just so it's easy to find, lightweight asset. We need to go edit, project settings, and then graphics. And you can see we have this new little thing in here that says scriptable render pipeline settings. And in here, you can even just click in here and then find that lightweight asset, or you can just drag this one in here. But we'll just click here, and oh, it's all purple. But it's going to probably give us some errors in here about why this is happening. One of the reasons is that this material is not compatible. And also you'll need to come into your project settings, quality, I'm pretty sure, or player, and you'll want to make sure that this is set to linear. Mine's already set to linear because that's what I work in, but you'll probably have it as gamma, but you might get another error saying you need to change it from gamma to linear, so you need to come in here and just change that. So that's where that's located. Perfect. So let's just create a new material, and let's just call this the lightweight ground, just so you kind of get the idea. But you get this new section up here for your shaders, and it's a whole new section for lightweight pipelines, and you can see it's now physically based, which is really nice. So let's just drag that out here, and as you can see, we've got that. And any objects that you create from now will actually be imported with this as well. So you can see that that will cross over nicely. So let's just get rid of that for now. And in my action scene, and I'm going to link these demo assets online on the filmstorm.net page that I'll link in the description. So you'll be able to get this stuff and have a play of it. You can see we've just got this agent guy, and he's just going to be acting as our defender and attacker. So let's just get him and duplicate him. So we have two of these guys now. And basically let's just kind of pop that there. We've got our camera, and what we want to do with this is actually, let's just kind of position it just to start off with. We can always move it around later. But let's just kind of go Control-Shift-F, and that will snap the camera to our current position. That's a cool little trick if you didn't know about that. So say you want to have it here, Control-Shift-F, and that's it there. So let's pop it back here. Alright, so the camera is there now, and we'll also need some virtual cameras, which is how our Cinemachine thing operates. So kind of give you a rundown. What we need to do first is for Cinemachine to actually use these pretty much any of these cameras, we need to create a brain for all of those cameras to hook into our main camera. Because really, when you think about it, all that's happening when we create these other cameras is this main camera is basically just zipping to that location in between each thing. So that's basically how this works. These are just kind of as they are, they're just kind of placeholders for where this other camera will be, because this is where we'll place all of the post-processing and other attributes that you'll want to include. So what we need to do is go add component and look up brain, and as you can see we've got Cinemachine brain, and voila, we have this in here now. And basically for now let's just leave it as it is, and you can see that it's snapped down to 000, and this is because there's no actual Cinemachine virtual cameras in the scene. So what we need to do is come to Cinemachine, create a virtual camera, and now you can see that this is basically reset, but it's gonna go off where we have these. So what we can do now is we'll actually need to start utilizing our timeline. But to do this, let's click on timeline. We can delete this guy because we don't need, that was basically just that timeline object, because we're not going to animate that. We want to grab our first agent and just drag this in. We want to add an animation track. You can see he's also updated his position to 000, and we'll also want to right mouse click, Cinemachine timeline, and Cinemachine track. And this is basically where we're going to be editing our camera cuts. So when we set up multiple of these virtual cameras, we'll be able to actually cut between them on this track. So in this Cinemachine brain, if I expand this out, you can see that we have Cinemachine brain. It's looking for a brain that we created, and luckily we created it on this main camera. So let's just drag this down. We can actually lock this, so if you click this little lock here, and then you click anywhere else on the screen, it will actually hold that there. Let's drag the main camera down, and as you can see, it's grabbed that brain that was on that camera and it's linked it up correctly. So that's cool. So now we can actually right mouse click and add a Cinemachine shot, and this is also going to want us to specify a camera. And if you look up here in the inspector, you have virtual camera, and luckily we have already made a virtual camera as well. So now we've set up basically our first camera thing. Let's just split this view for our game view. So this is what we'll see when we run the cutscene. Let's click on CM the VCam, and let's position this at something that we would prefer. So let's go Control-Shift-M, and here we have our first camera. And this is basically running in this scene. So let's first add an animation clip. So let's go to that first agent, click here, and you want to click in this little graph area, right mouse click, add from animation, and he's going to be the main guy. So let's make it Defender. Alright, so you can see this guy's just doing a kick animation. You can kind of get the idea what he's going to do. He's going to kick this other guy. So first, let's now drag in agent, this second one, animation clip, right mouse click, and let's make this the get kick guy. So he's going to get kicked. You can already see that he's out of position. He's going to run by that guy, and I'll show you a trick on how to fix this. So what we want to do is click in the actual animation clip, and you can click these ones, so you can see this updates the position handles. So you can either reposition him or rotate him. So we want to reposition him, and we want to move him back to the point where he's going to get kicked. I always find when two characters are making contact, that's the best time to realign them, so that way you can actually see where to push them correctly. Let's just bring that in. So that looks good. So if you press play, you can see that we've already set that up, and you can easily go back and preview it and go between it. And you can see it's so robust that you can have heaps and heaps of characters. I had about 100 characters on here, and it hasn't slowed down once, so it's very polished. Perfect. So I'm feeling that this camera angle isn't really capturing what we want to see. So let's start to adjust some of these properties. So let's kind of just reposition this so we can kind of get a sense of what's going to happen. So I think this angle is going to be good. So let's just make sure we Control-Shift-F this. And you can see that we're starting off here. Now what if we actually focused on this guy that was running in, and then we kind of panned with him? Well, there's actually super easy ways to set this up. So if we click on our camera, you can see we have all these options down here. Basically what we want to use is look at. We want the camera to keep looking at this guy and keep him in focus. So let's just grab Agent 1, which is the guy that's running in, and pop that in look at. You can see it automatically snaps to his root, or like right at the bottom. So we just need to go down to aim and adjust the Y position. So we can drag that up. You can even adjust this position a bit, so it's looking in front. So you can have it like about there. And now you can see it's dynamically adjusting that shot. Now you can see that because we had it set look forward, it kind of goes past him. You can actually even key this over time to adjust those properties as well. So if we right mouse click on, actually if we drag our first camera down and add an animation track, let's click the recording button, this little red button, And then we can actually set some keyframes, so when we can adjust the camera's aim position over time. So let's just come back to CM. We want to click on this. We want to right mouse click on X, add a key. You can see it's now red. We can scrub forward, and let's actually just reduce this to kind of line him back up. And let's also make this there. So now you can see that that's keyframed correctly. That's really exciting. So what if we also wanted to kind of make this feel a bit more handheld? You can come down to noise, and let's actually just turn off this recording. Let's just click that again, just so we don't set any other keys. Let's go down to noise, basic multi-channel purlin, and let's just give it a handheld normal strong, and let's see what that difference is. So you can see even when the camera is just sitting there, it's a bit shaky. If I exaggerate and make it like 4, you'll really notice the difference. Basically the amplitude is how big the shake is. So you can see that super wobble. So if we make that 2, make this 2, this will make it like a little bit more shaky. Kind of give it that Jason Bourne kind of feeling. So there you go. So let's say we want this to cut just there, and we'll cut to a new camera angle, and then it'll be like a wide shot. It'll be kind of like this to see the character fly down. So let's drag this down to where we want that cut. Let's go up to Cinemachine, create a new virtual camera, make sure this camera is selected, and let's go Control-Shift-F. I'll actually bring down a bit, Control-Shift-F, and that's how we can adjust that. Now right mouse click in here, let's add a new shot, CMV2, and there you can see that it cut like that. And again, if you want the camera to follow that guy, let's go to Agent 1, pop him in look at, and let's drag him up. But you can notice that this is actually cut back to using that shot. So let's drag this up. Oops, sorry, I'm adjusting the body. We don't want the body, we want this aim. Sometimes if you don't scroll down enough, you'll start adjusting that one. So you can always minimize that to stop affecting it. Dun, 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 dun. And maybe for better framing, we can keep it like there you go. So look how good that looks. So let's run it from the start. So we can even put one more camera cut in there. Let's make it maybe back over this guy's shoulder, so we can make it like this. We can even maybe do it from when he's getting up, because this animation was originally designed for him to fight off multiple people, but just to make it simple, let's just keep it at this one guy. But you can see here, let's cut it maybe here. Perfect. And again, let's now come in, add a new virtual camera. And let's maybe try and align it here. Let's add the Cinemachine shot in here. Oh. And I'll show you one more thing that you probably just saw happen. Like if I cross this over, this is actually how you blend between cameras. So that actually doesn't look that bad because he's kind of running towards, but you can see that it kind of picks up speed, so you probably want it to transition as he starts to run by. And we can also try this follow. So let's maybe see what this does. Basically this is going to adjust his actual, it's kind of like a game camera follow. So if we adjust this back down to like say -1, let's bring it up, back, let's see where where it's sitting. Okay, we want to maybe bring it out this way, up, back. You can see how it's actually following. If I bring this back, you can see that it's following the player, or the guy that's getting punched in the face. You can see that it does that really nice blend between those two cameras. So you can see that the main camera that I was talking about before is blending between those two spots, between those two cameras, and then it blends into this punch. So you can see that it's like that. I mean, most cases, cinema, you don't blend between two cameras, you cut between them. So you can just leave it like that if you want. And then you can also offset that VCam3 rotation. So let's just maybe rotate this. And you can also zoom it in. And maybe let's rotate it up. And rotate it up a bit more. There you go. So yeah, he'll see him get up and smack. And he goes back down. So maybe instead of following him, you could always just make it like a look at as well. Let's also just adjust this. And again, if you wanted to animate this camera to look down at the bad guy, let's just drag this down, animation, and let's go back to this first frame. Oh, you can actually scrub through these frames backwards and forwards, so you can see it cuts there. And let's click recording and aim. I think this is the up and down. Yep. Cool. So let's animate that to about there. He runs in. You can make it look up a bit. And then as he falls, you can keyframe it down to see him on the ground. And then let's cut it there. And let's turn it off. Cool. So basically that is our first little animation in Cinemachine. Super basic. You can also really enhance this again by using that same technique as before, just putting a little bit of camera shake on it. Because it does look like all of these shots would be camera shakes. This one, there's even one for wide angle. Make this 2. And just drag it so you can see it start. Bam. Smack. There you go. So that's really cool. One more thing that I wanted to show off that people probably don't know about is the using C# scripts between Cinemachine and setting that upon a character to actually activate ragdolls and that sort of stuff. I've actually had a lot of questions about this. I just wanted to quickly cover that as well. So let's just close out of this, untick that lock, so that way we can actually navigate the scene again. And if you click out, you can see they'll both go into these poses again. And let's just quickly set up a ragdoll for this guy. Let's just save the scene first. Let's go game object, 3D object, ragdoll. And let's just go and populate these in. So let's just open this up. Cool. Now we want the hips and the pelvis. You want left leg up, left leg and left foot, and then you want the right leg up and the right hips. You want right leg and then you want right foot. You'll also want to put the arms in. We want spine 1 in middle spine. You'll want the head in head while we're going through. Let's grab that right arm and right forearm. And let's grab that left arm and left forearm. Perfect. Let's click create. And that just went through and designed the ragdoll for us. If you click that, you can see the outline of the ragdoll parts, which is really cool. And if I turn off this timeline, let me just show you how this is going to work. If I turn off the timeline and come back here and I click play, he's going to flop down and go into a very dramatic ragdoll pose. So that's really cool. So how do we actually use this for our timeline? Because if I enable this timeline, let's set the wrap mode to loop so we can see it over and over again. Let's click play. And you can see that our cutscene will keep playing and it will continue over and over again. So this is really cool because then you can actually come into your scene view and you can be like, okay, this is playing, it's got all the cuts. You can maybe find new angles that you didn't see before. So that's really cool. It's a fun way to work. Smack. So how can we actually activate that ragdoll system that we implemented before in here? So let's say this is the final scene. He's going to get punched here, and let's activate the ragdoll while he's falling. Well, basically because this system relies on the animator that's attached to this guy, as soon as you turn this off and the project starts to repeat, it's not going to load again. So we'll need to create a custom script to handle the turning on and off of animations. So let's go to add component and let's just type in ragdoll handler. And this is going to be our custom script. Now let's open this guy. And let's just give that a second for it to do its thing. Excellent. So this has popped up in MonoDevelop, and as a lot of people have asked for me to do, I'm going to increase the size so you can see everything. First off, we're going to be using the Unity engine timeline, which is the new timeline system that I was just using. We're also going to be using the Unity engine playables. Basically, this is just how we get our classes that we want to reference correctly. This is just how we set up the references. One thing that we're going to require, so we're going to require the component. We're going to need it to be the type of an animator. Cool. We need one more closing in there. And this is probably the biggest thing that you'll need to pay attention to, as this is what's going to allow the script to actually update when you're previewing the animation outside of the game. So you want to put execute in edit mode. Super simple, but this is actually going to let the script run and update while you're scrubbing through that timeline. So that's really cool. Perfect. So what do we need for this to run? Let's create a public animator. So this is just how we reference the animator. Let's just call it city animator. We also want to do a public timeline asset, and this timeline asset, we want a public playable director. Let's just call it lowercase playable director. We want to grab a public double, and we want to get that for the current time. So this is just going to store the current time of that, which is cool. And I think for now that should be perfect. So we want to do an update, and if the current time, so basically we're grabbing the current time of which one are we grabbing? We're getting the current time of the playable director. Basically this will so this is the current time that we're scrubbing through in this timeline, and this timeline derives from this playable director timeline asset. So basically, when we grab that script that's attached to this character, we're gonna drag in that timeline, and it's gonna grab the playable time that's actually currently there, and it will actually update with that script. So it sounds a bit weird, but that's what we're gonna do. So to start off with, we want to also do above this, let's store the current time. So the current time is equal to the playable director dot time. So if the current time is less than or equal to, let's make it like 0.11f, and we can also put that in a float if you want to adjust when this goes back to normal, but you'll see why I just make this like less than that, because this is pretty much whenever you go back to the start. So that's that, and we want to make the cine animator dot enabled, and that's going to be true. So we want to re-enable it. And if the current time is greater than or equal to, let's jump back into the timeline. So seconds, you can actually come into here and see seconds. You can make it like what time. Now I'm pretty sure that this system actually runs off seconds, but let me just double check this. If we just comment that out and we save it, and then we can just go through and set up these variables. So it's compiling. Cool. So let's jump back to the agent. Let's drag in that timeline into playable directly. I'm actually pretty sure we might not need this timeline asset. I think this was when I was doing my testing, so we can take that out. And let's also drag the animator in. So let's just take out that timeline asset and save that. Because I thought that we had to grab the timeline asset, but it turned out that I could just grab the entire playable director, which worked out easier. So if I click play now, you should see this time scrub. Yep, so this is seconds. So we want to grab the seconds of where we want the ragdoll to happen. So if we go to timeline, let's say we want the time right there. So we want to enable him kicking or ragdolling at 5:27. So if the current time, let's uncomment this, if the current time is greater than 5.27 F, then cine animator dot enabled is equal to false. And since we want to enable it when we're not there, we can say if it's less than or equal to 5:26, then we want to re-enable it. Okay, so if we go back here, now you'll notice once this activates, when I scrub through, he's going to stop animating because technically he's going to be in ragdoll at this stage. But when I scrub back, he's going to reactivate. So if I log this and we look at agent 1, you can see that the script is updating in edit mode. So if you pay attention to this animator, it's ticking and unticking itself based off this time that we set, which is really cool. But unfortunately, I don't know if we can actually simulate the ragdoll outside of play mode. I'm pretty sure you can't unless you have like a plugin that simulates play mode outside of play mode, which I'm not sure if that can happen. But this is probably the best way to do it. So you kind of know that, oh, okay, he's gonna be ragdolling. So if we scrub back and let's click play, you should see that he'll go into ragdoll when we go to 5:27. There you go. And he'll reanimate back when we're back less than that. So if you want to adjust the time that he's going to ragdoll, you can make it a little bit later so he has a bit of hang time. So wait for that to compile and then it's going to run. So now you'll notice that he should theoretically get a bit more time to, to do that. You can see that he kind of activates really weird there. You can even come into here, his hips, I find, and add a bit of drag, so that way he doesn't fall down as quickly. But this will also add a level of like, what do you call it, fidelity to your cutscenes, because if you have lots of enemies on the screen and you want them to ragdoll and not just play scripted death animations, it will kind of play different for the player every time. And of course, if you have different scripts, you can always implement the same kind of things in here, so that way when you're scrubbing through here, it will also activate that. You can even set up individual keyframes for those scripts as well. So say you had this animator agent guy, you could add an override track, and then you can even come in here, since this is locked, let's go to agent, and then you can animate different keys in here. So if I enabled this, you can see that these become keyable. You can even right mouse click pretty much on any like boolean or any of these guys, you can add keys to it and animate it. So if you want to turn off and on scripts, it's really easy to do. So that's basically the basics of the timeline. I'm going to upload the whole this whole scene as it is right here, so you'll be able to have a little play around with it and see how that ragdoll set up correctly. But if you don't want the ragdoll to be on, you can just untick that, and now you can see that the whole scene will play without any ragdolling. So it's really simple to adjust. And it will just play the normal animation. And in the next tutorial, we're going to have a look at how to use some of these other cool cameras. There's so much power in Cinemachine because we can use these dolly tracks. So you can even have like simulated dolly moves, which is basically one point to another, or you can even do crane shots by adjusting the height of those other things. And then we'll also do another tutorial about the post-processing version 2 adapter. Well, it's not an adapter, this is just for Cinemachine, but we'll have a look at how to set that up through the packages, which is really cool. And then we'll also cover the new shadowgraph. There's just so much content, and I'm really excited to keep working on this. So thanks everyone for watching, and of course if you have any questions regarding Cinemachine, please let them be in the comments, and I'll try and answer them as soon as possible. But thank you, and I'll see you soon.